Welcome back to another edition of Zero Block 30. Today we have one topic, and it's the topic that the entire military world has really been focusing on. It's Tim Walz, the new vice presidential nominee, who is a command sergeant major, despite what the haters are saying. He's a command sergeant major. We're going to get into all that. I'll say it's probably the most, at least that I could remember recently, the most that veteran Twitter has come at me in a long time.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed every minute of it. It was fucking great. Like reading all the tweets of people being all butthurt. And I think that there's not a whole lot that I am 100% consistent on. I have been 100% consistent that there's certain stolen valor things I care about, and there's certain things that I don't. And I always want veterans treated with respect. And that does not matter what side of the aisle that you're on to me at all. There's been Republican congressmen, there's been Republican senators that have been attacked for, quote, stolen valor that I've defended all the way. And I will do that again today with Tim Walz. And I'm excited to get into that. And it's going to be brought to you by our good friends at Simply Safe. If you're like me and you're constantly thinking about the safety of people and things around you most, like if you have been in the National Guard and you're going to go on a deployment to, let's say, Italy, and you need somebody to be hanging out and watching your home where you can't do it yourself, you might want to have a company like Simply Safe, because you're going to sleep better every single night knowing that Simply Safe's 24/7 monitoring agents are standing by to protect you. And if someone tries to break in, and they'll send an emergency unit to help you when you need it the most. Simply Safe just keeps getting better with exclusive live guard protection. Simply Safe agents can act within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm and can even see and speak with the intruders in your home, warning them that police are on their way. That's got to be all-time bad feeling. Like, hey there, wild one. We see you by that TV. Why are you stealing a TV that costs $450 when you could go down to Costco and get a $600 85-inch TV at this current time? I wouldn't want that message. Hey there, kitchen gloves.
Yeah.
Put down that damn TV. Put down my Apple Watch. You can't take it. It's not even going to work. I mean, stealing most of the stuff that's valuable enough to steal, people don't care about anymore.
Yeah.
Like TVs.
There's nothing you could. There's one thing in my house, and I hope I'm not like encouraging people to break into my house right now. If you came in and stole my class ring or like Alex's engagement ring, like that, like obviously those can be replaced, but they have a lot of sentimental value.
Yeah.
Anything else, whatever, I'll get a new one. It'll be a pain to fill out an insurance claim, but I can get a new one. There's nothing here that I can't replace.
But you can't steal freedom whenever you're in jail. So it helps when people are inside your house that you have somebody that can look inside as well. The level of security and customer service has been incredible. So it's no surprise that Simply Safe has been named the best home security system by U.S. News and World Report for 5 years running, and the best customer service in home security by Newsweek. Protect your home this summer with 20% off any new Simply Safe system when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring. Visit simplysafe.com/ZBT. That's simplysafe.com/ZBT. There's no safe like Simply Safe. And don't forget, whenever you get your bundle, to add on the moisture thing, because it was an absolute lifesaver for me whenever my house was flooded when I first bought it. That thing right there, even if you live in the safest spot in the world, that's worth it, because rain is wet, turns out.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind, indeed. All right, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. First off, whenever all of this started really happening with Governor Walz, what was your first impression? Were you like, "Oh shit, here we go. This is it. We might need to get somebody new." What were your thoughts? Cons, we'll start with you.
Oh, I never thought they were going to get something new, because I think, gosh, you'd have to uncover, I think, that somebody killed their spouse before you flip-flop on who you pick as your presidential candidate. Because I think J.D. Vance has had some stuff come out too that, is not favorable. But I think anybody who runs for a political office, there's something somewhere in the deepest, darkest closets that everybody is hiding. So inevitable that something comes out. And my initial reaction was, the guy served for 24 years. Let me get a little more detail before I start condemning him and anything that he has said or done. I need to get more information, because I think in today's day and age, it's not about being right. It's about being first. And both sides want their talking points. They want their sound bites. And it's so ridiculous, because you can see, everyone, it's like there's a script out there that everyone gets mailed, and it's like, if you're voting for this person, here's your script. And doesn't matter who it is, everybody's just saying the same stuff. So I try to block out all that noise before I come to my own conclusions. And that's what I did initially with Vance. And very candidly, I didn't know really anything. With Walz. I didn't really know anything. Actually, Vance for that matter too, about either of these guys. So I wanted to learn more before I said something, which, I don't think is as common these days.
Katie?
So the first thing that I saw come out, what was it, last week? That, he's lying about his rank or something like that. And it turns out he was this rank, but then after he got out, he didn't get busted down, but it got taken down a notch because he didn't complete online training or something like that. And to me, it didn't seem like a huge deal, but immediately my brain thought, yeah, but the other side, and this works both ways, is looking for any little chink in the armor, any little thing they can point at. And what both sides do is they feed off the ignorance of the public and how little they know about military life and what the military world. And so it's so easy, especially if you're a veteran, to rev up the public about something military, because the public has no idea, not even the slightest, tiniest little clue. They take advantage of the disconnect to make something very small, something very huge. And I saw it on both sides too. Like, I saw all the stuff coming out about Walz, and there was this video going viral where the caption said, here's Walz talking about his time in Afghanistan when he never served. And I watched the video and I'm like, he doesn't mention Afghanistan once. He says, like, in support of OEF or whatever like that. But it doesn't matter. All you need is that, it's this guy saying he went to Afghanistan, blah, blah. And then on the other side, I saw like this Ken Clipperstein guy or whatever, one of those viral tweeters.
Yeah. One of those brothers.
Was like, here's this huge list of military accomplishments that Walz had. And then look how small JD Vance's is. And I'm like,
hated that too.
I hated that too. It's like, it's not a dick measuring contest. And I saw this great, like, this woman, Rebecca Sanderlin, I think she was a military spouse, but she had this great point. And I was talking to you about this the other day. The thing I'd love to see come out of the Walz Swift voting is an acknowledgement that most everyone in the military is extremely insecure about what they actually did and constantly compares their service to others' service and how unhealthy and wrong it is. And like, maybe we don't do that, but so much of military and veteran culture, whether we want to admit it or not, is so disgustingly toxic. And it is like people saying, well, you were only this in the military. You were only that. You only deployed once and I deployed twice. It's like this constant, I did more than you, or this person did more than you, so your service isn't as good. It was a volunteer service. Like it or not, maybe he was just, and I'm saying that because other people are saying, well, he was just public affairs. Like JD Vance is just public affairs. When you sign up during a time of war, when you volunteer, you don't know where you're going to wind up. You don't know what's going to happen to you. And you're volunteering to do that. And that is noble in itself. And the frontline shit can't happen without everybody. Like, I guess I'm just so tired of the toxic culture on both sides of like, and also too, like, doing shit in the military and doing shit in combat doesn't make you a good person, and it doesn't make you a good leader. Like, it just absolutely doesn't at all.
Yeah, it doesn't absolve you of everything else.
No, dude, it doesn't make you anything. But again, I guess I'm just so tired of seeing these military people, and we're like talking about how exciting it is. Wow, we have 2 enlisted people for the first time ever, and oh my God, for vice president and blah, blah, blah. And it's bringing out like the ugliest side instead of showcasing something that should be awesome. I'm rambling.
I think
valid points.
I think you're right. My first impression when I saw it was here we go.
I was like, great. Here we go.
It was inevitable that it was going to happen. And one, can you imagine day and age now? I mean, because Vance is a senator and Walz is a governor and congressman and all that shit. How many times you've been recorded speaking about something like that? Like for us, like, can you imagine now if one of us was to ever run for office, how much somebody could go through 700 episodes of us talking for an hour about some of our own experiences, the experiences of others, and how you could find these small little inconsistencies. The fact that there's only a couple for both of them is legit crazy. Like it's crazy that there's only so few incidences. And I'll say from the jump, Walt saying that I carried weapons of war in war is inexcusable.
Yep.
Like that, to me, that is, and I'll say it is the only spot that I see a huge problem. I want to get into the actual story and what happened, and then I'll break it down kind of as we go on. I'm sure we all will. But I want to jump from the jump. Saying that you carried weapons of war in war when you did not is bad.
Yeah.
I understand the messaging of it with what he was trying to say, but that is one instance that you can't say it, because I think that it's absolutely true that the stolen valor community cares about one thing: one, awards, and two, actions.
Yeah.
Like if you say that you did these things and you didn't do these things, that is what people are going to jump down your throat for. And if you're going to say it, you have better fucking done it.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that goes.
Mhm.
The other stuff that they're bringing up, I think this is fucked up. And it would, dude, why in the world would you run for office, man? Like, think about how happy this guy appears. Like, nobody knows what it's inside your home. But his wife and him seem to have a great relationship. 2 teachers. He's a super happy grandpa. He's got kids hugging on him because they got free lunch in schools, all that kind of stuff. And then you have this, and you're trying to be vice president. It seems miserable to be a person in public office in the United States.
I think for both too, they both, their teams had to have known that their military records were going to come under extreme scrutiny. So I think it's a huge miss by Waltz's team to not get ahead of it. Like, they knew, they had to have known that was going to be a question. Why not come out ahead of it? By the way, my record says this and blah, 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 blah.
Because they did it when he ran for governor. It was out there. All this same shit was out there, but you're right that it is a whole different level.
Yeah.
But they clearly made that they would weather this, and they will. They
will, but like I don't understand. Like, you have to know it's coming.
No, you
Get ahead of
definitely
it.
do. You definitely do, because it's not the first time. So let's go through the story, because this is definitely a little deja vu goofing.
Okay, this is from the AP. In some corners of the Democratic Party, last week felt like deja vu. The party's VP nominee military record was under assault from Republicans, attacks reminiscent of those leveled 2 decades earlier on Senator John Kerry during his run for the White House. Democratic strategists who lived through the Kerry onslaught, however, say the political landscape has changed so much since 2004 that they do not believe the attacks will land with the same resonance. It's a very different world, said senior advisor to Kerry's 2004 campaign, Tad Devine. Former President Donald Trump's campaign responded to the selection earlier this month of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as the Dem VP nominee by attempting to pick apart his military record. Walz served for 24 years in the Minnesota National Guard. That's a lot of hot dish on the weekend.
That's a lot of hot dish, yeah.
But Trump's campaign has criticized him for using imprecise language to describe how he carried a weapon in war and when he retired from his service.
So I think that that's like a good primer of what we're about to talk about. And the 2004, I don't know how many of our listeners, because our listener age range is like, the average is 20 to about 38 is where we are listener raising. Some ahead of that, probably about 45 actually. I don't know how many really remember what happened in 2004 is what I'm trying to say.
I didn't remember this at all.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back through some of the Swift boating, because some of the people that are behind these leaks are the exact same people. Like, the same dude that started what happened with Senator Kerry.
Okay, the year was 2004. The Macarena was a hot song at the time.
Yeah.
I was smoking Black and Milds in my mom's 2000 Dodge minivan Sport with the confetti seats.
Ooh.
Ashed during a rainstorm once, left streaks of ash down the side of the neon. I got in a lot
Kerry's
of trouble.
Kerry's
campaign was caught flat-footed in the summer of 2004 by attacks that questioned whether the presidential candidate had earned his many commendations as a commander of a swift boat during the Vietnam War. Well, I picture a swift boat to be like those Navy SEAL dinghies, kind of.
No, more than that.
But bigger?
Yeah, they're more than that.
It's
Yeah,
bigger and they're more up armored.
like a Bayliner size.
Okay, got it. Like a crabbing boat with guns all over it.
Yeah, like a pontoon that goes fast.
Okay,
A
awesome.
little bit bigger than a pontoon.
All right. Okay. So
Also, I didn't realize the type of awards that he had.
yeah,
Because
me
I
neither.
wasn't in the military when this was all going down, or I think I was actually in boot camp when a lot of this was happening. So I had no idea what any of these awards meant, except for the Purple Heart.
Yeah.
I mean,
So he's commander of a swift boat during the Vietnam War. He received 3 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, and a Bronze Star.
Oh, by the way, another little interjection here. In his official bio from the U.S. State Department, whenever he left Yale and went into the military, guess what it says that he did whenever he went into the military? That he enlisted into the military. So whenever you're talking about the fine-tuned language, this is somebody that works for the U.S. State Department that doesn't know that officers don't enlist, that they get commissioned.
Yeah. Again, the ignorance of the public. And like
Right.
you said, like you didn't know
And
what
government.
Stuff meant
I mean,
at
that's
the
the
time.
U.S.
Yeah.
State Department.
Yeah, right.
That's not fucking somebody writing on Blogspot.
Yeah, any non-military really. So 3 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Bronze Star. By 2004, obviously pretty fresh off 9/11, there were 2 wars going on, Iraq and Afghanistan. Kerry, a senator from Massachusetts, had made his military service a centerpiece of the hard-fought presidential campaign. And yeah, no shit, like America had a massive, as it should have at the time, hard on for our military members who were going in and getting justice for what had just happened to our country. So he's like, especially as a Democrat, I got to hype up my military service. He was used in his service to point out, as the point of starting for his nomination speech by saying he was reporting for duty. Republicans sought to undermine that. Yes, cheesy as hell. God damn. Cheese whiz all over the place. Republicans sought to undermine that selling point by raising questions about his Vietnam War service. An outside political group, the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth, led the anti-Kerry campaign, spending millions on hard-hitting TV ads. One spot featured men who served in Vietnam questioning Kerry's leadership and heroism, as well as his fitness to lead the country. Another blasted Kerry's participation in later anti-war protests. The ads were effective. I remember being in Ohio and listening to that ad, and I called my campaign HQ and said, guys, I just heard an ad, and if I heard that ad, I would not vote for me. And this was Kerry talking about seeing the ad about himself.
Yeah.
Wow.
In 2018. Some in Kerry's campaign wanted to respond more forcefully, while others wanted to take a more cautious approach, concerned that focusing on the attacks would elevate them. The campaign pushed back in the press, but spent little money on costly TV ads to address the controversy. I'd say huge mistake. The trepidation, one-time Kerry advisor said, ensured that the public began to question the candidate's ability to handle national security matters.
So one of the reasons why this happened, and because you look at it now, like President or Vice President Harris, for example, just raised like $310 million in the last month or whatever the fuck those numbers are. Yeah. Over $300 million. That was before campaign finance reform. Like, and back in the day, you had equal amounts that both campaigns could spend. You didn't have all these super PACs and shit like that. So they had a very specific budget. So going outside of what your normal budget was a lot more difficult than now. Like now you could also have tweets and you can have TikToks and you can have Instagram reels, getting your message out. You had very limited ability to do this. So that's why this attack on them was so unbelievably effective, because there wasn't a whole lot of recourse and bringing it to attention and saying, actually, this is what happened. This is what happened. If you're arguing uphill. And that's what, like, as far as a strategic point for Vance and Trump, it's very smart because you have Walz coming in. He, like, everything's hot on the Harris and Walz ticket. Like, they're bringing in all kinds of crowds. Next thing you know, you're starting to fight uphill because now they had been fighting downhill, because going straight at Trump puts them back on their heels. So from a strategic point, it's a very smart tactic to take because you don't want to take your eye off the ball of what you're doing if you're Walz, especially getting into the mud with something like that.
I think it opened up too. Like there was photos, the Republican National Convention that year, people like tons of people showed up wearing Band-Aids with Purple Hearts on them.
You remember that, Cons?
Making fun of John Kerry's Purple Hearts. And it was at a time when like you couldn't say a bad word about military members. They were so revered, but it kind of opened up the door to like, you can't shit on military veterans unless they don't think the same as you, unless they're on the other side.
Refresh my memory, and maybe you're getting to that. What was the crux of what they said Kerry lied about? That he didn't deserve the awards he was given?
So the things that they had said that he lied about, one, that he over embellished. So there was people that were saying that, oh, he wasn't there long enough to do that. He did 2 tours and he got 3 Purple Hearts. The first 2, by all accounts, the first one by all accounts was not very significant injury. He got there. It was either a shot or a ricochet that went in to, I think it was his forearm, Sounds familiar. There's one that went into his forearm. There was another one that he got. It was it was shrapnel. The first one was shrapnel that just cut him. The second one was a gunshot wound, kind of like mine. And the third one was a little bit more significant of a gunshot wound. But people were saying that he put himself up for these awards, that he was like an award writer and all that shit, which you can't do it for a Purple Heart. I don't know how many times I've said it, but it is the only automatic award that there is. Like, it's your doctor that can put it in, and that's it. Doctors and corpsmen, in certain instances, corpsmen can do it, but by and large, it's just the doctor officer that could do that. So they took those awards, the 3 Purple Hearts, and he also got a Silver Star, which for those keeping score at home is just 1 below a medal, or 2 below a Medal of Honor. They don't just hand them bad boys out. And the other one was a Bronze Star with a V. They don't just hand them suckers out either. So he had 5 pretty big awards, you would say.
Yeah.
And even at a time when military veterans were getting, or active duty service members were getting sucked off, maybe more so than any time in the last 40 or 50 years, they were still comfortable enough to go after him. And my thought at the time, I remember whenever it was right before I went to boot camp, and I remember thinking, if they're going to do this now, there's got to be something behind it, you know, because it was at a time period where you didn't talk about veterans a lot, especially in that matter.
Yeah.
And then now you are. There must be something to it, right? Like, I think that's the logical conclusion.
I mean, it worked. And like, his crew members came forward and said, like, the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth were like,
but some did. And that's where the parallel between now and Walz, like that, people were, I got so many of the messages of this one dude that was a sergeant major after Walz that was like, I took over for this dude. His people said that they left him, that they felt like completely abandoned. That dude ended up being like 2 sergeant majors after him. And you will always, I promise you, Cons is one of the nicest guys ever. You will find somebody in the Army at some point that be like, Cons is a fucking dick.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Like, you were going to find, I mean, God forbid somebody
Absolutely.
go back to my people and find, like,
yeah.
You're going to find people that hate you no matter what, especially if you've been in for 24 years.
Yeah.
And you were in a position of a senior NCO.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to hate you. And if you didn't, you probably didn't do your job that well.
But that's too, like, I've again, like, seen on the other side, well, JD Vance only did this and this and this. Like, he wasn't and I'm like, I don't give a shit.
I don't care,
he volunteered to, like,
right.
Like, I guess
that's,
so
I think,
tired.
and you pointed this out too, chaps. Like, they both did what they signed up for,
Mm-hmm.
and that was that. Now, I haven't seen this corroborated, but people who said, like, did Walz like sign up for another enlistment and then like cut that short?
So the story from behind that is that he was actually due, his 20-year mark hit right around September 11th, because this was 2004. 9/11 hits, and he decides that he wants to actually come back in and stay, that he wants to stay. And then he ends up doing the more time, up to 24 years. And he put on, after he came back, is when he put on the Command Sergeant Major emblem, like the rank insignia, even though he technically didn't have it because he didn't go to PME school. It was a promise to go to PME school. He was the Command Sergeant Major. And during that time, there was a warning order that was issued, and the warning orders weren't even done the same as they are now. Like, that changed in 2009. The warning order saying that you could deploy in 2 years. Well, let me just say, if you're in the Army, if you're in the military period in 2004, 2005, you know, at some point in the next 2 years,
it's inevitable.
You are going to deploy. Like, that's it's not shocking information to come out like, oh my God.
I'm not going to tell you like, oh, he knew, because there's no way to confirm what he knew or what he didn't know. But what I will say from my experience, I arrived to my first platoon in December, and I remember meeting with my battalion commander. He's like, well, nothing's official on paper yet. We're probably going sometime between May and July, just FYI. And then sure enough, you know, a few months later, the paperwork came down. So the people who are like button up the timelines, the different dates, and it's like, well, he was already out before the paperwork came down. I'm willing to bet that he knew that deployment was happening. And he's like, do I want to go on this deployment or do I want to go pursue public office? Again, I can't confirm that. I'm just saying, based on my experience and what I know of my deployment and friends' deployments and what you just said, you knew what was coming down the pike, especially at that time.
And well, I think it's less so at that time, Cons, for that instance, because by the time that you got to your unit, it was what, 2008, right?
No, November of 2007. Oh,
Yeah,
December of 2007. Yeah.
So you're talking about another 2.5 full years that they had been in theater, because this was early 2005 when he would have dropped his retirement package. So the war in Iraq had really only going on for about a year. So they didn't have like the deployment rotations all the way across the board figured out like they did at the end, which I think is an important note too. So like you have this guy that put in his retirement package. We have the timeline of what happened. So we'll go through the actual timeline. So in April of 2004, Walz returns to Minnesota with the 125th after a year-long deployment that was in support of Operation Enduring Freedom that was in Turkey, and he did some time in Italy as well. And this part of the whole shit really fucks me up, because Walz is saying like in support of OEF, and people shitting on him for that and saying that, oh, that's totally different. Like, that's not a deployment. You're just like, you're trying to have a little bit of bravado there. Let me just list you the countries that were involved in OEF and the amount of American veterans that went there that are also getting their service by a ricochet denigrated. These are people that deployed. All right. These are countries that were in support of OEF: Canada, Australia, Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, Albania, Belgium, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Norway, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Turkey, Austria, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Brunei, Croatia, Georgia, Ireland,
Genovia,
Japan, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Malaysia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Philippines, Qatar, Republic of Korea, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, Tajikistan, Thailand, Ukraine, UAE, Uzbekistan, Armenia, Macedonia, Mongolia, Morocco, Nepal, Serbia, South Africa, Turkmenistan, Uganda, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Yemen, the Philippines, Ireland, Switzerland, Japan, and New Zealand. At any time over the last 20 years, if you would deploy to one of those areas in support of OEF, that's exactly what your orders would say, that you were
No, I think what you just read out were all the countries that were supporting, like, and fighting in OEF.
Right, but if you did a deployment there, like if you went, for example, Japan, absolutely 1000%. I was stationed in Japan, and it was a Global War on Terrorism E, like expeditionary. So you have the E, and if the orders say in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, because it wasn't, even though it became to mean Afghanistan in the lexicon, it wasn't just Afghanistan. Like, that's why there was deployments to Bahrain. There was deployments all over the place. I mean, hell, there was deployments in support of OEF that happened in Georgia, like state of, not country of. There is drone operators that take place in New Mexico that are in support of OEF. My point overall is that there is deployments that happen across the board, that taking that satisfaction from other people who did deploy and look at their orders with pride and saying that I was with OEF.
But I
think it's fucked up.
Sorry, I could be wrong. I think the only countries where like it's considered in support of are Afghanistan, Philippines, Somalia, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, and the Sahara Desert. If there's more, then I read it wrong, because I will admit I didn't know that you could go to other countries and get your OEF expeditionary medal. And that was something I learned in the last couple of weeks. And
I didn't know that either.
I didn't, go to OEF. But, maybe there are other countries. My big problem with what he's done, you can make the argument he's lied, but what I think he's done more so, and you kind of touched on it there, he's been equivocating, right? Where he's kind of been a little obscure, and to use Kate's explanation, the American public, 99% of people don't know anything about the military. There's people probably in each of our own families who don't know stuff about the military that we all did. So I think he's been
ambiguous,
purposely ambiguous, and let people come to conclusions on their own.
Yes.
So he could say, well, I didn't lie about that. I said I went in support of OEF. It's like, when you say it like that, what most people are going to think.
And
So,
that's what I wish they would all just be confident in their service and just say.
And this is part of the reason why, because people are going to get shit on, man. Like, it's crazy. Like, even if, let's say you're right, and you very well may be, Cons. I might have gotten that list completely wrong in the way that I researched it. Completely could be. Either way, his orders say in support of OEF. Like, that's what the orders say, because they published them. I think it was Laporta published them.
Yeah.
And they say in support of. I think that we all think that, but I understand what you're saying, where he is kind of being like,
and I think
parsing on the tongue a little bit, like I could get away with saying this.
But I do think it matters, because I think what the public is showing time and time again, that they're so hungry for just the genuine, authentic, come forward and be like, in support of, and make a little joke. Like, even though it's not funny and your service wasn't any less good, it was in Italy, I had a lot of spot, but here's the reason why it was super important, and why everybody who served in Italy was an important part of the blah, blah, blah. There's a great classy way to do it.
There's a
where
story
you're not
there.
denigrating your service, but you're also like making sure that the public is aware that you weren't here. You were here.
Right.
Because you know they're very ignorant.
You know who didn't serve for 24 years in the military? Just about everybody else.
Right.
So be proud of that 24 years. And you don't need to let people come to their own conclusions on where you did that service or what your rank was. Just come out, say everything black and white, and you wouldn't be in this situation right now. Because I think at this point, the damage is done. I think largely people have their minds made up. It's August. I think people largely have their minds made up. I don't think you're going to hear anything in the next couple months that are really, there might be some people in the middle. I think largely everyone's set on who they're going to vote for.
But they have to know that this doesn't have real legs. Like, it just doesn't have legs.
Well, just and I mean, it's just so exhausting.
So here's
everything that comes out.
Here's the timeline. Walz was like I said, he was in Italy and Turkey in support of OEF. In September of 2004, he was promoted to sergeant major on September 17th and began serving the 125th as the command sergeant major, while his package was submitted to the National Guard Bureau to appoint him to the command sergeant major. On March 2005, Walz's newly formed campaign for the congressional seat released that he could possibly go to Iraq and that he would stay and fight if that's what he was assigned to do. In April of 2005, his promotion package was approved by the National Guard Bureau, so he was assigned as the command sergeant major. In May of 2005, he officially retired. What we don't have in this timeline is when he did actually submit his retirement package. That's something we don't know. What we do know is that those don't take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They take a substantial, like the advice, I don't know how it is in the Army, or definitely don't know how it is in the National Guard, but in the Marine Corps, you were always told, give it a full ass calendar year. It's probably going to take you a full calendar year to get everything done that you need to do. So in April of 2005, May of 2005, he retired. And then in July of 2005, the National Guard said in a statement on Wednesday that they received the alert order. So it was after he was already retired that the alert order came out. And again, this is 2005 when the alert orders weren't as dialed in as they were later. Like for me, for example, 2007, I knew I was going fucking 9 months before I was going. They were like, hey, these are the dates you're probably going to go inside this 2 week period is what I got. Walz didn't have that opportunity. He was already out. And then in July, they had their warning order, and then they actually mobilized in October of 2005, which is 6 months after he had already been getting out. Now, let me just ask you this. Let's say you are in that position of command sergeant major. Kate, we'll start with you. You are in the position of command sergeant major, which command sergeant major Kate would be amazing. You are in that.
I'd be divorced, living at the office secretly.
That you are in that position. You've been in for 23 years, and there's a warning order that comes down that you're going to deploy for 9 months, and you have a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old that you just conceived via IVF after trying for 20 years. Is that something that you feel like you owe to the nation to go on another 9 months away from your family?
Honestly, after 24 years, if I had done at least 20, no, I don't think I would feel. I feel like I did what I needed to do. Hopefully, I've trained the next people good enough. And I think too, even I was thinking about this, even if they were like on the other side, JD Vance did 20 years and then found out he was going to deploy and got out and it was like on purpose. I'd be like, good for him, dude. He did his 20 years and like, so what? He doesn't owe you any more than what he gave. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I don't think it's a crazy move to be like, I did my time. I'm good. Like,
Cons, what about you?
I don't know.
I don't know that I would feel like I owe anything back to the country because, like Kate said, like I did 24 years or 23, regardless, it's over 20 at that point. That's
came back from retirement after 9/11 too.
Yeah.
But what I would have would be like a crisis of conscience where, like, if I'm at that level and you have that many soldiers in your formation, it wouldn't be as easy for me to say like, oh, okay, cool, I'll just walk away and let them go deploy, knowing at that time they're going to deploy to Iraq, which, you know, and again, I'm not taking anything away from his deployments to Poland or to Italy. Considerably, there was more going on in Iraq than there was in
Sure.
So like the level of risk or the level of danger is certainly heightened. All of those things, gosh, it would break me up to think like I wouldn't be there with them if I had trained with them and been with them for a very long time. I think ultimately I don't, you know what? I don't want to Mark Wahlberg 9/11 this thing. Like, oh, well, what I would have done was this. Because I think I'll end up sounding like a jerk.
And you don't know family pressure behind the scenes of people too.
Yes, you don't know the full story.
Like if the wife is like, "Oh, you're gonna."
Yeah.
Speaking about my cousin whose husband deployed 5 times.
And sorry to that point too. And then, chaps, I'd like to hear what you would do, but not to be like gatekeepy, but it seems like the loudest people about all of this are the ones that never served a day in their life.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Get it.
And
oh yeah.
Sorry. Your opinion doesn't really carry much weight. If you didn't raise your right hand and put your name on that line that says, I'm going to defend this country, maybe take a step back on this one and not try to rile things
Donald
up for
Trump
political
Jr.
purposes.
My God, dude. Like the entirety of that family's never served a day in their fucking life and like so outspoken about this. My thoughts are, if I was the command sergeant major and I had a warning order, there is 0.0 chance I don't go.
You're going.
0.0 chance I don't go. I'm going 1,000 times out of 1,000.
Yeah.
That's Marine me, like knowing how I was then. Now, if for some reason the country is in a shitty spot where they need a bald 42-year-old fat ginger leading people in combat, I'm like, nah, dude, I'm all set there. But at that time, there is absolutely no chance I don't go.
So here we have it. Kate, huge pussy. Cons, middle ground. Sees both sides. Chaps, all in. I think you two would go, and I'd be waving at you from the shore.
But I don't think even though I was as ate up as I was, I don't think I would have looked poorly upon somebody who said, dude, I've been doing this shit for 22 years, man. I'm ready to be done. My body's fucked. I got other stuff going on. I'm running for Congress. Like if I had somebody else like that, I don't think I would care as much. Personally, I would never do it, but I don't think I would begrudge somebody who did.
Yeah, I also think it's we all knew a lot of people that we served with who probably had like multiple deployments under their belt. So if at like 23 years, you had like 6 deployments under your belt, if you said, all right, I'm all set. All right, I get it. But with him, I don't know. I just have a hard time. I'm such a team guy and, like not walking away from your team. Like I would have such a hard time saying like, nah, I'm just going to let them go down range and I'm going to go run for governor.
And let me say that was if we're leaving in like 2 weeks. Like if I was looking at retirement and you're like, it could possibly come sometime in the next 2 years, I'm the fuck up out of here, dude. Like 2 years, it could change in the military in 2 years. Everything.
Yes. Yeah,
everything.
That's a good point.
I mean, you're looking at 2005. right? So you're like, oh, 2 years. Well, 2 years, there's a presidential election cycle coming up. That could significantly impact what's going on. President Bush said like that was around the same time that he dropped that mission accomplished banner. So you don't know what's going on there. Are you going to stick around for a deployment and be like the Michael Chandler of the military, where you're sticking around to fight Conor McGregor for 2 years, even though might not ever get that fight? There's a lot of shit that goes into it. And people are acting like he knew exactly what was going to happen with the crystal ball. If I am looking at Congress and I'm looking at the polling data that says I have a pretty good chance to be in Congress, and that's my goal, is to serve my community in that way, 2 years, dude? Fuck out of here. You do anything in 2 years.
And I'll be honest, I don't know. I think things are probably different for the National Guard too. Whereas I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but
we're probably wrong about so much shit right now.
So fucking wrong.
Even,
we're speculating
I don't wanna
so hard right now.
That's why I don't even want to speak so much on the rank thing, because I don't know how promotions, if they differ to, and how much they differ in the National Guard from active duty.
Oh, I want to talk about the rank. I want to talk about that big time. Now, let me just say this, Cons. You get out, like, let's say you were going to get out and you got frocked to be a major so that you could be a battalion XO, which is not outside the realm of possibility when you're getting out to be frocked one rank up. You leave active duty. The last time you take your blouse off, you guys call it a blouse or a top? You call it shirt?
What did we call it? Stolen Valor Connor.
Stolen Valor Connor, yeah. So let's say you take off your cami top off, and the last thing that you have on there is gold oak leaves. Now, when your DD-214 comes in, it reverts you back because you didn't put the time and grade to wear it for retirement purposes. It reverts you back to captain. What rank are you telling people you were when you got out? 1,000% it's major. And anybody that says differently is fucking lying. The dude's last job, his last billet in the Army, in the National Guard, was Command Sergeant Major. The last rank insignia that he wore any day ever in uniform was a Command Sergeant Major. I don't give a fuck what S1 says. That man was a Command Sergeant Major.
Fun note, I have the opposite. I got out as a corporal, and then like a few months later in the mail, I have it. I can show you. I got promoted to sergeant.
Sergeant Katie. Yeah.
Wait, what? And I don't know if it was like the IR time and services because I got let out early to go to college. So technically like I was still in, but you
made the cutting score.
I guess I made the cutting score because technically whatever.
No, Sergeant Katie.
But I would never, I refer to myself as corporal. That's the highest rank I got to. All my uniforms before my ex got rid of them. Corporal. If I went to a Marine Corps ball, I would go as a corporal. I would never consider myself a sergeant in 1,000 years. I would never say as such.
And that's the other way.
That's the opposite.
So I think it's like what you wear, man. Like if I wore, like, let's say when I was the company gunning, I was company gunning as a sergeant, never got officially frocked and billet not on uniform. If I got off, if they frocked me and I was wearing it, if I was wearing gunner sergeant, even if I was at E5, and my last billet was gunner sergeant and my last rank that I wore on my uniform, you better believe I'm calling myself gunner sergeant Kaufman.
You know what, though, is the difference? I'm almost positive anytime we've ever talked about that with you, you add that qualifier. You go into detail and say all of that extra stuff. I think if you say all of those extra details.
Well, I say those extra details because it makes me look better.
Okay.
I'll say this, like,
I got moved up 2 ranks, dude. Like, it makes me look good.
Again, though, like, I know you say he came out with all this stuff before. He said it before, but his team just should have known and should have gotten ahead of it, and none of this would be a thing. Like that.
Well, none of it should be a thing anyway. Like, but you do have to realize you do have.
You need to know it's going to be a thing.
Yeah, you have to you have to have the foresight to know what people are going to come after you for. But I just wish that military veterans online were fucking normal, man.
I know.
Like what people are looking at this dude, like calling him a coward and like his heart was never in the Army. Dude, he did it for so long. Like this guy went as a teacher and a reservist. This guy's a glutton for administrative punishment. Like being a teacher fucking sucks. Being a reservist, from what I've heard, fucking sucks to
Yeah.
do both, to serve his community for that long in both positions, and to be attacked for it is crazy.
Well,
And again, what he said about carrying weapons of war in war, 1,000% wrong.
Yep.
1,000. But to characterize his character any other way than he was, at the minimum, he was a guy doing what he thought was right.
Yeah. Let any of you who have been drunk at the VFW and didn't add some shiny details to your time in
And
service
if we're going to
before-
start
No, I'm just
canceling
kidding.
people for 1 or 2 sentences out of place, brother, lock me up.
But I will say, yes, that sucks. The Stolen Valor account, which you'd think would be like the most out there. Oh God, it's like this account that
I was actually shocked at how refreshing they were.
they
Like
are
nonpartisan as shit.
They're very level-headed, and like it's on. I follow them on Twitter at Stolen Valor 1, and basically, if somebody has a question, like I'm dating this guy, and I think some of his shit's not true, like this person is an expert at finding the true original DD-214s, their service records, sussing stuff out, like because candidates on both sides and smaller elections across the country are lying about their fucking service when they don't need to.
And even the DD-214 sometimes can't be the end all be all.
But it's
Like how many times have we seen those be
I have
wrong?
stuff. I have pictures. I have journal entries, stuff that I did that I was given awards for that somehow didn't make it onto my DD-214.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a shit
And
show.
I would look like a liar. And I'm like,
Yep.
I have all this other proof that I was presented with this award.
He gets that and all
It's
the
just
other
not
proof
there.
kind of stuff. So anyway, people were asking about Walz when this came out. So he's like, here's the blah, blah, blah. And he pointed out like the rank discrepancy. He's like, yep, he is not this rank. He's blah, blah, blah. So then the people who like Walz were like, well, where's JD? Find all JD Vance and stuff. He's like, I don't have to. I don't need to like whatever. But here it is, by the way. And if you're going to compare military awards, please be correct. No matter what you think of either candidate, their military records deserve to be presented correctly. Please stop spreading misinformation on their both. It's embarrassing. JD Vance has more than 2 awards. Because then the other side was saying he didn't have any awards and blah, blah. It's like both. It's like just brought out this
Also,
ugly side.
Who cares?
And I'll tell you this, like my military buddies that I should be in better touch with, I'm sure, I like do not give a fuck who they are voting for. Like I don't give a fuck. They deserve like the same for whatever they did. Like I can't think in a million years like denigrating their service because I don't like what side they're on. Like I just
he's
like
just a PAO. Shut the
yeah,
fuck
I
up,
knew him
dude.
and whatever. He only did this. It's like I'm just
Who
like
cares,
I'm
man?
so tired of it.
You know, what the
As
other
long as
trend
you
that I
weren't a
saw-
huge shitbag, that's the only thing I really care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. As long as you weren't getting Article 15 left and right.
Yeah,
The other thing that I
And
saw
those are
that,
probably
like-
the people that are the most vocal about being the other way.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
the ones that I know that were the biggest shitbags that I still like am friends with on Facebook that I log on occasionally, they'll be going off about how back in their day, I'm like, dude, back in your day, you got fucking NJP'd for stealing government gas. You know,
But the thing I saw that really like gave me like cringy vibes. All the people posting pictures of themselves.
Ugh.
This is me being not Tim Walz. It's like,
oh God.
you number one, that's just brutal, and it's just people like to pile on. But number two, you could be posting a picture from JRTC. No one knows the difference.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, that
Like-
one porn dude. Like,
Yeah.
Johnny Sins.
yeah,
Shout out
Johnny Sins posted his picture.
Retweet if
Yeah.
you love the troops.
Yeah, Bubba Gump. This is my
Yeah.
uncle. He's no Tim Walz. He was
Yeah.
he was part of McNamara's morons.
Yep. It's all
I don't know.
to
It's just I think ultimately it's interesting that people prey on both sides of the public, largely not knowing much about
100%.
military service, and it's used against people and for people. I do think I've seen enough that I do think Tim Walz was trying to lead people, maybe not lead people, but he was, as I said, purposely ambiguous on things that he's said. I would love for him to come out and just say everything point blank. I think that would be great for him. I think probably at this point, yeah, it would be very refreshing. I think at this point, they're probably like, whatever, it's in the rear view. We're not going to change those people's minds. There's no point. But it would have been nice. And again, you served 24 years. Be proud of that.
Yeah,
and
I
JD
think
Vance served 4 years or 2 years, whatever it was. Be proud of that.
Right.
I think I agree with you, Cons, that there was definitely like he tightroped very, very well over the course of 15 years in public life, like doing what he did. But I also know the human element of it. No one wants to say, hey, look, I did 24 years in the uniform, and what most of the public would consider I didn't do a whole lot. Nobody's saying that,
Except if you're running for vice president.
But all of these things were before vice president, you're just not going to have somebody that's going to say the things that I did were really inconsequential.
No, and I'm not asking him to say that. I'm not asking.
No, but I mean, when you're talking about deployment, like I did deploy, like what is he gonna like? Is he gonna self-denigrate every time? And because if he did, as a command sergeant major, he's bringing all those people that were with him down. Like if your deployment and supportive operation Enduring Freedom, and we did it in Italy, how would you feel if you were part of that unit and he's the command sergeant major? He's like, yeah, I realized that my only deployment was in support of, we stopped in Italy. It was very cushy and we got a bunch of ravioli the entire time. Like nobody from that unit wants to hear that. Like nobody's spouse wants to hear that was without their husband or wife or mom and dad for 7 months, that they're on those deployments with them. They don't want to hear that.
But you don't have to say that. Like,
right.
There's a class.
You deployed where you were told to deploy.
I deployed to Italy, that's where we were sent, and our support helped the troops in Afghanistan do X, Y, Z. The military has numbers breakdowns for everything. Like, there's a great way to say it. Like,
sure, yeah. I'm not saying he said anything perfect by any means. I'm saying that I do understand, and it's like we've hosted this show for a long time, and have heard from people all across the board. No one is that careful with their words. No one.
And I'm saying if you're in that level and you're going to get picked apart,
sure,
you should be, because
and you're going to get picked apart now.
That's what we want.
But I don't think when you're making those statements, I mean, definitely the one's different when he was in front of Congress, but it would have been hilarious when Nancy Pelosi was like, he was in, I think she said he was in Iraq or something like that, and he just kind of stood there. Like, it would have been really funny because she was a speaker at the time. He was like, actually, Madam Speaker, your boy was I was hanging out at Tonkin in Rome.
Yeah.
So I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, no, not even close.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. He didn't correct people. People said what they wanted to say. And
yeah, but there's definitely articles, and I've been involved in places where people have switched up Iraq or Afghanistan, where they'll switch up. They'll call me a soldier. They'll
White
say,
Sox Dave the other day asked me if I shot anyone in Iraq. So I said yeah. I said yes.
Yeah, right. So I mean, ultimately I understand the criticisms. I think that it's a stupid thing to criticize about. Walz has definitely got to come out and say everything that I did with my people, like I fully am proud of. I'm proud of every single soldier that worked underneath my command. Maybe I made some mistakes in the wording that I used along the way, but it was never meant to defraud people, or people think that I'm greater than I am. I'm a fat dad type of situation. Something self-deprecating come out. But overall, he's the vice presidential nominee on the ticket. So I don't think it'll hold a whole lot of water, just like the rumors of J.D. Vance fucking a couch won't hold a whole lot of water.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, those pictures that came out of Vance, I guess in college, dressed up.
And that's Democrats is doing that.
Shit.
And
yeah,
I think
dumb.
that's so fucking stupid.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, look at this guy dressed in drag. Democrats can't on one side of their mouth be like, look, doing drag shows, being an LGBTQ community person is totally normal, and then be like, look at your guy, he's in fucking drag. And they did it with George Santos too. Like, it's either okay or it's not.
Yeah.
Like, stop making that type of thing to dunk on somebody, especially a dude that's clearly in like a dorm hanging out with
being goofy. Our guys on our dorm, we were in a co-ed dorm, everybody was being dumb and like dressing up in all different kinds of shit.
I would venture to say probably 95% of dudes at some point have worn a wig.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or some ladies.
Right?
Does.
Like, we had a drag. I mean, think about how much shit has changed. And even in, I grew up in Matt Walz's district, or not Matt Walz, Matt Walsh. No, Gates. Yeah. Like his district, we had a drag competition for, like, if you were on homecoming court for dudes, one of the competitions that you had for Homecoming King was a drag show.
Yeah.
Like, you had to dress up and do like a model walk and do all that shit. Imagine that happening now.
Well, he's got enough Botox for it. My goodness.
He does.
Sheesh.
All right, let's move on to some save rounds and alibis. Cons, what's up?
Kate, are you sure those are plants in front of your house and not weeds?
They are indeed. I have been informed. Yes, several of them are considered weeds.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna tell you. I was
Yeah.
gonna let you keep watering them and doing a great
Uh-huh.
job. Those are 1,000% weeds.
Like
I knew it instantly.
like genuinely, like legit, they are weeds.
No, I know.
And I planted them on purpose in front of my house because I thought they were.
They'll grow.
The sign said
they'll grow.
The sign said Zone 5, non-invasive, like whatever, natural. And so I was like, oh, it's like these are the natural plants of Illinois. And no, they're weeds.
Yeah, but I think sometimes natural plants can be weeds, but they're also still beautiful.
The tall one.
Do they flower?
Barely.
Yeah, barely. Yours stink.
It's weeds.
You got to pull them.
And you know what? They're not covered in bees and butterflies.
Yeah,
so
they're
much.
not pollinators.
Flies.
Yeah.
They are covered in fucking flies, dude.
That's what you want to
And
bring right by your
my
door.
front door. I know they come in all the time. It's the nightmare. Yes, Cons. Thank you. Those are weeds.
Yeah, cool. All
Yeah, they're
just
massive.
Checking. Just checking.
Big enough to hide an Amazon package in, though.
Oh, nice.
Good. That's good. You got to be a real weirdo to steal Amazon packages.
They're doing it.
You never know what you're going to get. You might get something awesome, or you could end up with like Band-Aids.
Yeah, something lame.
You know what? That could be a fun game. And I'm not advocating for stealing, but you just drive by people's houses and you try to guess what's in their Amazon package.
And then you steal it and see.
No.
Hell
There's
yeah.
a way to maybe hopefully figure it out
No
without
wonder
having to
Cons
steal.
has so much funky stuff in his house.
Mhm.
He's been getting interesting.
Speaking of stuff in my house, we had to get a new washer and dryer. And no free ads, but the folks at Lowe's, and this is why I always advocate go in person and talk to someone in customer service versus the phone or trying to just do everything. Everyone is so
Dude, they
averse
love
to
that
talking
shit.
to people. Yeah. Everyone's so averse to talking to people and they just want to do everything on their phone or online so they don't have to interact with a person. If I had done that, I would have been out probably $1,000. But because I went and talked to the person, I was able to get everything squared away for no cost. And they were just very, very nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never do that. I'll call, bitch, listen to hold for like 10 minutes, and then tweet about it.
I like just dealing with people. I almost see it like as a game, trying to, get the best situation possible.
Hell yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Catherine?
I haven't gone yet, but it's like going to Home Depot or Lowe's for bras. There's my body shape, has taken quite a turn. I have kyphosis or whatever it's called. My spine curves forward like a candy cane now. As a result, my ribs are jammed into my hips. So I have a giant crease under my boobs now, like this permanent giant crease. It's wild looking. It's insane. So my tits are like gorilla tits. You know when you see a gorilla sitting and it's like one big long sad frown line under their tits, and the tits kind of go off to the side and sit on. And so my stomach protrudes too. It's like a whole weird. It's wild. All my organs stick out. Anyway,
Gentlemen, no fapping during this segment.
I cannot find my tits are like the craziest shape ever now, and they're like empty. They're like loose. It's terrible. So I keep trying to wear bras and ain't nothing working.
Yeah.
And so you catch yourself in the right lighting. I'm not saying you guys have man boobs, but do you ever catch yourself in certain light and you're like, oh, my pecs, like my tits look kind of weird.
You ever seen the sweater picture?
Yes. So I constantly am like the chap's fat sweater picture now where I'll catch myself in certain light. I'm like, I'm having a weird boob day. Like I can see how weird my boobs look right now. And I cannot. I've been ordering different ones from Amazon. I've been trying sports bras, peta bras, whatever. Nothing feels right, fits right, whatever. Long story short, I'm about to go up to, it's up in near Wrigleyville. There's a bra store. I'm about to go up there and give them the case of their life. Hey, I'm going to walk in, just lift up my shirt and say, figure it out.
Who's the bravest one in here?
Who's the bravest one in
You're
here?
about to see an absolute show.
Come here. Figure it out. Make these look
Hey
good.
there, wild one.
Yeah.
Your job is to fucking like Tim Walz was supporting OEF. You're about to support these tits.
100%. So they're going to have to go and figure this out because I don't think they can. I don't think any expert.
Go to Men's Warehouse. You're going to like the way you look.
Like the way you look. They guarantee it.
I have to live in there the rest of my life because I can't fight.
By the way, speaking of gorillas, so now we've moved. Well, we still watch the Miss Rachel, but we've also moved into the Disney movies days. Those will keep her attention. I'd never seen Tarzan, the one from 1999 before, with all the Phil Collins.
In the beginning, fuck Yes.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad. But
Yes.
overall, I really liked it. It was one of the
Great
better ones that
music.
Maybe one of the best top 5 soundtrack.
Yes. Yeah. It was very good.
Anything else?
I don't know how I like having other things. I'm on a huge hot dog kick right now.
Oh, she is.
I'm on like my 4th hot dog of the week already. It's only Tuesday.
Big glizzy gal.
Chicago dogs with the
You know
hot
problem,
peppers, pickles,
even
and
those
mustard.
are delicious. I love those. But a hot dog by itself is just not very filling, I think, even with all that extra stuff on it.
Well, I get fries and a root
Okay.
beer. And now it's to
root
the
beer is a
point.
Good choice.
I love when you become a regular somewhere and you walk in and they're like,
Chili dog.
and the guy even said today, don't even worry about it. I'm getting your root beer right now. I was like, you know what I like.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
they
But now
know.
you can't deviate. That's the only
know.
bad part about being a regular somewhere is that you feel bad when you deviate.
But I don't
There's
have
this place.
to because guess what?
What?
He throws in extra little treats, different foods for me.
Oh,
Free.
see, now that's nice.
Yeah.
There was this place called Fran's Diner and just outside of Tate High School where I went to high school. And they had like it was a country ass place where my favorite thing to get there, I would go like probably 2 or 3 times a week would be, and my girlfriend at the time, her dad would pay off my tab, which was because they were like super rich. So I would get like biscuits and gravy in the morning. But if you went in for lunch, they would have fried rabbit legs with mashed potatoes and shit. Absolutely love that place. But I got the fried rabbit so often that whenever I came in one time and I was with a new girlfriend, and I didn't know how she felt about people eating rabbits.
Sorry, that's a red flag for me. I'm out.
Rabbit eater?
I'm out.
I didn't know how she was going to react to that. So I was nervous. And they were like, "You want your fried rabbit?" I was like, "Ha, no, I think I'll just have a cheeseburger."
Yeah. Good joke.
She ordered
I'll
the
just take
rabbit.
it.
I was from
No.
White Trash Place. Yeah. So shout out Joe Wilson.
Never tried that. Didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
My save round alibi, I am officially, as of today, no longer the parent of any children in elementary school.
Woohoo!
That's awesome.
It feels so weird, man. Like
I bet.
every time a new school year starts, I'm like, well, there's no more elementary school kids now. Like it's crazy.
Me and Cons can't relate.
Does that make you sad?
No.
Oh.
I mean, there is certain, like when you were like at the beginning of the show, if you're not watching on YouTube, Cons was holding Maggie. There is definitely times where I see little pictures that come across like Facebook memories or whatever, where I'm like, man, I would legitimately kill somebody to have
just be able
to have that moment where like Kelsey snuggling her little redheaded neck into me, or Cardi falling asleep on the couch with our bodies in like the same exact position. Like like those moments would be great.
Yeah.
But it's also different. Like I was telling you guys the other day, I took Friday off and went. Cardi had a doctor's appointment, and then we went golfing, and we were standing there as the 8th tee at this super shitty golf course here. It's like $15. Your kid gets to go free. Just a real terrible muni course. Cardi doesn't know the difference. They could think it's Pebble Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're sitting there on the 8th hole, and there's probably 40 yards of water, and we're talking about it. And they're like, "Can I do this one?" Because typically they'll tee off, we'll pick up their ball, then they go to where I hit off the tee. And they're like, "Do you think I should use a good ball or a bad ball going over the water? Because I'm going to hit it in the water." I was like, "Well, let's just try to do the best you can. Don't worry about whatever ball. Like if it's a good ball, bad ball, we'll get you more balls." Like having everybody loses balls in golf. And we went up like because the water had gone down, the water level had gone down some. So we go up there and you could see there was legit like 300 golf balls that you could see plugged into the mud right there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, look at all these people. You think all these are kids? Like it's a grown ass dude. Like Mr. Kirk did it fucking 2 weeks ago. He launched it right into the water here. And they're like, "All right, well, I'll give it a try." I was like, "Just focus on your form. You're going to do okay." So they've been practicing by hitting leaves in the yard, and they just want to hit the leaf and the leaf alone, and their feet stay the same and all the little things. Well, they hit the ball. It goes like 30 yards over the water. So it's like their farthest drive by far. And the look of excitement on their face was, it's a top 10 dad moment for me ever. Like they hit it, watched it go over, immediately like dropped the club, you could see how hard their eyes were searching for mine. Like they were like, I gotta see Dad's face right now. And so they come over and get, like, we do this high five where we hit twice in a row, like pop. So they do that pop, pop, and then it was like jumped into my arms and like gave me the biggest hug ever.
That's awesome.
And I was like, core fucking memory right there. And I was disappointed when I first saw the ball. I was like, I can't believe I didn't record. And then the second after it happened, I was like, I am so glad I didn't have my phone in my hand.
Yep.
That I was just watching.
Just there.
Too many memories, I think, are people viewing it through a phone now. You got to just be present in the memory.
I would have liked to have it recorded for sure, but I think looking back in that time, like for us, just then, it was great. And then the rest of the time, it's only a 9-hole course, so we go up, they hit their ball in. I let them do the whole hole by themselves. They ended up getting they got like an 8 or something, and they were over the moon about it. Like going the next 2 holes, like, dude, I can't wait to call Mom. I'm like, you want to call Mom when we get in the car? You want to wait and tell her in person? Like, no, we gotta tell her in person. And so the coolest part, capping that off, is the next day, because I checked their phone. They're 11 years old, so they have like a cell phone. So I make sure, go through about once a week to make sure they're not talking about or viewing anything that they shouldn't be. And I go to unlock their phone, and their lock screen is the view over that water.
That's awesome.
And so I took a picture of that. I'm like, even how cool it was for me, it might have been cooler for them.
Yeah.
Like to be like, you know what? I'm going to stop at this shitty muni.
Yeah.
Take a picture and save it, because I had a great time with my dad.
Now, 40 years from now, when Cardi runs for office and they're giving a speech and they say, I remember the first time I got a hole-in-one with my dad. I'm like, no, they're lying. They're stolen valor.
Yeah.
All valor.
I was 11 years old at Columbus Golf Course, just south of Oak Park.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Next week, little programming. We actually are posting the Charlie Manson podcast that we did. We recorded that this morning. I'll be and Kate might be too. I'll be at Camp Barstool, so make sure that you check out all that content. Me and a bunch of the other folks from Barstool Chicago are going up to a summer camp in northern Wisconsin, like 30 minutes away from the border of Canada. And we are going to be doing all kinds of summer. I think it's supposed to be like heavyweights, essentially.
Yeah. There's going to be a blob, jumping on the blob.
I can't
wait.
wait.
I'm going to referee.
I can't wait to blob. Who do you think will be the best getting blob? Oh, Spider's going to go to the moon.
So,
oh, yeah.
To the moon for
Spider
sure.
to the moon.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys then. It's on the retreat.